So these critics, I say that in quotations because they're not really critics. They're not really game journalists. People that review movies aren't really movie critics. You know, these people, they don't really care about the mediums that they report on and work on. That's not something that they worry about or care about. You know, how their industry is doing. They don't care. The real reason that they want to work in entertainment, like gaming, music, Hollywood, stuff like that, is they want to use it for activism and influence. See, they think that they're going to change the world, going to make it a better place by picking out ismphobic things in games like Borderlands 3. So here's a whole article, which is quite hilariously stupid because it's just more nitpicking. Like, oh my goodness, Borderlands has a problem with dwarfism and disability. Whole article based on characters in the game that are losing limbs and the fact that some of the villains are short. Because, you know, everything has to be scrutinized. Look at that guy from SNL. It's like, ooh, new cast member for SNL. Let's look back 10 years in his life at least for something that he might have said somewhere. Where's the slip up, sir? Oh, we found something? Take his life away. It's just, these people they're insane. They're insane. Look at the stuff that's been coming out on Call of Duty, too. The new Modern Warfare game. They're like, oh, you can't use that stuff because it's really bad in war. You can't use that one particular thing. I was like, what's good about war? What's good about anything? It's like, why is this one thing being selected out? Oh, you got to find something to nitpick and be outraged about. Because that's what it's all about with these people. Looking for some kind of way to make something look bad so they can stand up as some kind of heroic champion that stood up to injustice. So, before I get into this article, I want to point out that I don't plan on buying Borderlands 3. I hate defending it here because they've really done some shady stuff. They were sending people like goons to people's homes that had the game early, which is really weird. Pretty sure they were copyright striking people's channels who were showing video footage from the game. And there's some real shady stuff I'm hearing about the guy who runs the company. I don't have enough to go on with that yet, so I'm going to wait to talk about them. And we're going to skip down to here, because the first part, they pretty much just rag on the fact that they call Midgemong, which is a pun for midget, a human, she looks like a human backpack or something. Then they skip right into the problems of Borderlands 2. They say dwarfism is a constant target for comedy throughout Borderlands 2. Players frequently come into contact with enemies labeled midgets. Oh no. Who speak in high-pitched up screams. Sometimes they're carried piggyback style on the shoulders of their large comrades. It's made clear that dwarfs are considered inherently funny. A spectacle to add to the sense of strangeness on Pandora's alien surface. Isn't that the point of the game, though, for everything to be strange? And I gotta say, like, there's nothing human-looking about a lot of these characters. They're very exaggerated. Doesn't it make sense that they're going to exaggerate the villains and the way they look? So it's just nitpicking to nitpick with these people. That's all it is. And that's all it ever has been. They want to use their influence to say, look at what I did for the little ones. Look at how great and virtuous I am that I went on into defending these people who probably don't care. Probably don't care. Probably didn't want you to represent them. There's an in-game explanation for their existence. Well, there you go. There you go. Back before the events of the first Borderlands, miners found a vault key fragment while digging, and its discovery altered the workers, sending many insane and physically mutating others. That lore, however, does not help real-life dwarves who live with the consequences of depictions like this. Well, real-life dwarves and the people in the game aren't the same. It's not the same thing. I didn't know that they got mutated from digging around in mines. But apparently you're saying that this is a real-life thing for them. I'm a little confused here. So they're going to talk about a study, how Peter Dinklage says it's one of the last acceptable forms of hate and all this stuff. And says, I'm yet to find a dwarf in any Borderlands who isn't designated an enemy. Why can't these people just be normal and have fun? I don't know what's wrong with all these people in society. I shouldn't say all these people, because really they make up, I would say honestly, about 10% of the total population. I want to say about 10%, because I think that's a good number. I did a video going over some Pew Research stuff where they talked about Twitter and how 10% of the people on Twitter drive 80% of all of the content on the platform. What is that 10%? It's all the loons. All the ones going crazy and cancel culturing people and stuff like that. It's all of them. It's not the normal people who are on there wanting to look at like cats and dogs and stuff and funny things. It's the loons who just rile people up and get people going. And I think that you could apply that to the amount of people that are, translating this to real life in the population. They're the ones working in the industries like this. And you have to be friends with them, and you have to be down with the cause to get a job in these outlets too. Make no mistake that there's definitely a gatekeep now on all these mediums. And that's why old school media is dying. That's why websites like this are going away. And they want to get rid of YouTube platforms, because YouTube platforms, anybody can do. Why do you think they hate PewDiePie so much? Because PewDiePie is a normal dude. They want to replace him with Will Smith and like celebrities. They don't want anybody to be able to just pretty much step up and have a platform. We can't have that. So then they go on to say, Borderlands joins a long line of representations of dwarfs as either punchlines as an Austin Powers or curiosities like the Oompa Loompas of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The term midget is itself considered derogatory, associated with freak shows of P.T. Barnum and the public display of dwarfs for novelty entertainment. Unsurprisingly, when Little People of America surveyed its members, over 90% said they never wanted to be referred to that way. They never wanted to be referred to as the guy from Austin Powers or Oompa Loompas. I mean, of course they wouldn't want to be. Of course they wouldn't want to be called Oompa Loompas. I mean, that's not really a shocker. I mean, what's even the point of this paragraph? I don't understand. This isn't the same thing. No one thinks little people look like this character in this game right here. Nobody thinks that. No one thinks like little people look like little mohawks with weird knife guns. No one thinks that. But of course, we have to go to the extremes all the time with these people. This isn't a history Borderlands developers are completely unacquainted with. By the pre-sequel, midgets became little scavs, and in Borderlands 3 they're called tinks. Producer Chris Brock acknowledged in a PC Games N interview that the original name had not been super sensitive. I don't think most people cared that they were called tinks. Or no, tinks, the little scabs. I bet you most people don't give a crap. Just these weirdos at VG247. And I'm sure there's an article from Kotaku and Polygon coming. They'll read this and get inspired, and they'll write one as well. Watch. Wait and see. Or maybe it'll be a different form of ismphobic stuff. The sandbox is wide open. Literally. So, furthering on, says that the change is not a censorship thing, going from little scabs to tinks, but rather down to a fun title the team came up with during development. It's an interesting choice of words using censorship there. The fact that Gearbox seems aware of its offense it might cause not only makes this a fundamental problem that tinks exist as enemies at all, even more of an issue. And then they switch over to a different area of activism, and they say, to make matters worse, Borderlands 3 evidently has a wider problem with its presentation of disability. The very first mini-boss you face, Shiv, has hand and arm deformities. It would be a different matter if similar disabilities were presented among your allies, but instead, they seem exclusive to the Children of the Vault, the same bandit function many of the tinks belong to. So short people and people with fake hands and arms are hanging out as enemies, and that's a big problem. Big problem. People in third world countries have to walk down to rivers to get water to feed their family for the day. But this is the real issue. This is the real issue, isn't it? VG247. You guys are really doing the world. You're making the world a better place with this article. The world is going to remember you for making a difference. Friendly NPCs in Borderlands 3 frequently sport prosthetics, but they're either voluntarily, like that of Atlas CEO Rise Strongfork, who replaced his arm to get ahead in Hyperon's data mining department, or part of a cool backstory like Hammerlock's encounter with a thrasher named Old Slappy. There's a clear divide between the heroic disabilities that result in robotic eyes or steampunk limbs, and the bandit ones that leave their sufferers with impairments. Those who grow up with real-world disfigurements often feel as if they're left outside society. To mirror that situation within the fantasy fiction of Borderlands feels both unnecessary and unthinking. Those people that have those problems could probably give 2 S's that people in this game that are depicted as enemies have deformities. Look at this guy. So this is what they're talking about. This guy has a big muscular arm, and then this one's really tiny. Okay? Making him some kind of a mutant. Ignore the fact that his rib cage appears to have been cut open at one time. Let's go ahead and just talk about the fact that the guy spends a lot of time watching Fat Vision. That's a bigger issue. I'm surprised they didn't go out and call him an incel. Would have made more sense given the big, massive size of one arm and the tiny one being unformed. So, anyway, earlier this year, Rage 2 was criticized for using birth defects, specifically clipped lips. I remember that. I remember that. So, in that context, Borderlands 3 appears to be part of a wider industry issue in the representation of disability, particularly when it comes to designing enemies meant to evoke disgust, fear, or laughter. It's time for shooter developers to re-examine how they pick their targets and who they might be dehumanizing in the process. Nobody cares, VG247. Nobody cares but you. This is what I can't stand about the West. Because you know what? Now, if this were to pick up steam, I bet you Gearbox will come out and say, well, you know, we're going to make sure the next one doesn't have that. Like, you can't just tell a story. You can't just design cool-looking characters. Like, I think the design of this little thing looks cool. Look at the design of that weapon. That looks pretty sweet. I don't particularly like the Borderlands games, but I think that the designs are pretty cool. This is a pretty neat-looking enemy. But you know what? We got to focus on the fact that one arm is smaller than the bigger one. Like, this guy sees this, and he's practically, it's like the dog salivating to the bell for food. Like, ooh, I can get a juicy article out of that one. Most people look at this and say, okay, that's a villain, but not these guys. Not these guys. They're the real world freak show journalists. That's the real world freak show. Not any of the people they're talking about in here. It's you guys, you journalists. You're the penny arcade. Like to see you guys in an insane asylum. This is where you all belong. That's where you all belong in one. Nobody can just enjoy games anymore. You gotta get a lecture first. You know, sit down for this lecture on disabled people, sir. Then you can enjoy Borderlands. Okay. Man, I tell you, man, like all these articles are gonna make my blood pressure. I'm gonna have to go on those like blood thinners by the time I'm done with my YouTube career. I'm telling you. Anyway, like, subscribe, share the video, leave your comments. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. Make sure you're still subscribed. That's a thing. So a lot of people got unsubscribed from channels yesterday. So hit me up there with a resub if you did. Share the video again. Check out my Twitch, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.